Hi guys, I have here maybe my favorite chess book. I'm talking about My 16 Memorable Games by Bobby Fischer. I very much like this book, and today I want to share with you a game that I've studied there and I think is pretty much instructive. Who I am? My name is Filippo. I'm an intermediate chess player from Italy, rated around 1725, something like that. I don't play over-the-board games since COVID, so quite a long time. I want to share this game because I've learned a couple of things. I know a lot of people on the internet are around my same level, so if you can learn something with this video, well, I think my goal is reached. By the way, this is my first time in front of a camera here on YouTube, so I'm probably look super awkward. It's normal. Alright, Fischer in this game is white, is playing again Shocron in Mar del Plata 1959. And let's see the game. Alright, so e4, e5, knight f3, knight to c6. Since there I can understand everything, so you should too. I mean, development of pieces, bishop b5, the real opens of course, a6, the Morphy variation. I don't want to go too deeper in the opening for two reasons. One, I think is not that helpful when you're looking at a game the first time to just go super deep into lines, so I'm just gonna go quite fast. And also this is a quite common opening. And there is another reason. I'm going to upload another video where I go deeper into this specific opening of this game. So feel free to check this video out. I think it's somewhere like here or here, I have no idea. Alright, bishop a4, knight to f6, pressuring the pawn, and now castle. Bishop e7, again, the opening is pretty normal. You don't want to capture knight takes e4 because then the king, the pawn, and the knight are all lined up on these columns, so maybe rook e1 is very aggressive, or d4, and black really doesn't achieve anything. So bishop e7 covering this column. Now the pawn can be taken, so rook e1 defending the pawn and also threatening bishop takes, pawn takes, and knight takes. This is a real threat because there's no queen d4. But again, after you finish this video, look the other one to see deeper in this opening, all the little lines, not anything really complicated. As I told you, I'm almost a beginner in terms of rating. I'm not able to go even super deep, so, you know, feel free to check that out. Very, very easy to understand. Alright, b5, bishop b3. Again, b5 is made, of course, to prevent takes here and takes here. So b5, bishop b3, and d6. Black just defends the pawn. c3. c3 is made for two reasons. The first one is that you want to create an escape room for the bishop, because a plan, very common here, we are going to see it, spoiler alert, knight a5, bishop c2, and the bishop is not taken. Another thing is you want to play d4, and you want to support with this pawn on c3. So it's a multi-purpose move. Alright, castle, h3. Now, you may ask yourself, why not d4 straight away? The real reason is that you don't want to allow bishop g4. Basically, you really never win a pawn here in any variation, and the only person who can win something out of this is black, by deciding whether or not to change this knight that is pinned to the queen, and this bishop is quite active there. So you want to avoid this by playing, instead of d4 straight away, h3. At the beginning, the real opens is quite a strategical game more than a tactical one. Of course, depends on variation and everything. You don't want to play too crazy. At least that's what Grandmaster teach us, so I believe them. Alright, knight a5. As I told you, attacking the bishop, but is very typical. You have probably already seen it. Bishop c2. Again, the bishop here is very nice because he is defending e4, he is kinda also looking at a4, maybe you wanna push in the future, and why not? If black decide one day to push here, you just capture and look at this. I don't know, maybe a day the bishop will be active, I don't know. Alright, c5. c5 is made, of course, to, gain quite some space here on the queen side, and this is the other reason knight a5 was played, to allow this c5. But believe me or not, the Ruy Lopez is so theorized that this is still theory, so I'm not gonna go too deep into it. Alright, d4. d4 here is okay because you don't have to worry about this pin anymore. If black capturing the center is just gonna favor white because this pawn then became weak. Now there is a threat. Pawn capture, and knight capture. Maybe before changing queens, but you got the point. And black just defends with queen c7. Now capture, and you can't capture because it's defended by the queen. Yeah, I'm saying capture quite a lot. I'm an agatmator enjoyer. Yeah, I'm guilty of this. Alright, knight b d2. This is an important move because is a very common pattern in the Ruy Lopez. You want to play knight to d2, to f1, to rerouting the knight. Rerouting? Is this a word? Does it exist? I have no idea. You want to reroute the knight to e3 or to g3. And both the square, of course, g3 is really just, I want to bust your king, like I literally want to kill you. Instead, e3 is more like, yeah, I may want to kill your king on the king side, but you know what, also d5 is not that bad, and taking an eye on the queen side also. So, this is the path of the knight. You have to understand, depends on every situation and kind of opening. Alright, so knight b d2, as described. Bishop d7, just developing a piece, nothing crazy. And a thing that I want you to notice is how those very strong players, because we are focusing on Fischer, but also, of course, his opponent, if he is playing Mar del Plata 1959, is a strong player. They are not changing in the center. As a beginner, I probably in a real game would capture in the center here because there's so much pressure, and I know a lot of people on my level, probably also you, I don't know, we tend to change things just because there is pressure towards them. There is this energy going on and we can't really just stay cold and understand the position in itself, and we just exchange. So in this game, they are teaching us already an important lesson, in my opinion. Don't change random. Think. Alright. Knight to f1, of course with the idea that I described, going to e3 or to g3, very nice. Rook from f8 to e8, maybe if someday something open, I have my pressure over here, I'm happy. Also, very important here, the rook here allows bishop back to f8, maybe guarding g7, we never know. So it's a very important move, very typical in the Ruy Lopez. If you have already seen other games, it's very typical. Alright, knight e3. As you can see, Fischer prefers a more universal approach if you want. Like, I'm not committing myself in telling you if I really want just to kill your king, because there is the square, very nice, that I want to control. Alright, and now g6. g6 is made both for avoiding knight f5 and also to allowing bishop f8. And now is a little bit more open, maybe it's gonna go to g7, we don't know, but it's just an option. And now, the first exchange, finally. d takes e5, and Fischer wrote, after d takes e5, I have more control over the d5 square. So as you can see, the Grandmaster think very easily in terms of logical, of course, their thinking process is way more complex than mine, at least. And you see in this position, like, he is controlling the d5 square, sure, but with one piece and one pawn. After this exchange, also the queen is looking at the d5 square. So if knight there and an exchange happened, maybe the queen can go there, maybe, we don't know. It's just an option. Fischer open an option, and this is very important, is one of the reasons why I choose this game, and this really teach me something important, and this is change only if you find a purpose or an advantage for you. Don't change randomly just because there is pressure towards pieces. Don't change randomly. I know it sounds obvious, but I have to apply a little bit of self-criticism to myself, And like when I play sometimes, I have to admit it, I tend to really change randomly. And I know it's something that people do. So if you also do that, I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Well, maybe this is a good lesson also for you. All right, so knight h2 by Bobby. So we said the last move was, of course, g6, takes, and knight to h2. Knight to h2 is sounds a little bit weird if you look at for the first time, but it's very easy. The knight on f3, Fischer thought wasn't really doing that much. I mean, if you go there, you are not really attacking concretely anything. This pawn is very hard to attack again and can be very easily defended. Here you can't go. If you go there, then there are no way to find a new home for the knight. So h2 with the idea of going to g4, because you know this square now is very controlled. Also, h2, free square for the queen, going to f3. And you may say, well, how is this useful? Look at this. Rook from a to d8. Now, there is a big threat here. Maybe a discover. We don't know where, but it can be very, very dangerous. So the queen must move. You can't go there. You have to go there. You can't go there. You can go there. You have only those two squares. But where do you go? And again, this is another very important moment for me. I really learned a lot from this move. Fischer played queen f3. And probably I would also have played queen f3 if I was white in this position. But just because it sounds a little bit more logical. I mean, the other option is queen e2, but queen e2, you know, sounds a little bit, there is the knight that is blocking, the pawn that is blocking. I mean, queen f3 sounds more scary because, I don't know, you are maybe pressuring f7 or stuff like that. But then I think that Fischer didn't really play queen f3 because, I don't know, some crazy threat towards f7 or for some crazy attacks. He actually played this move for a very simple reason that we discuss over here, the d5 square. So right now, this is just a way to control the d5 square. We said that here, the queen also controlled the d5 square. And right now, if you play queen e2, you lose this control. You see? It's insane. Instead, if you play queen f3, you still have this control. And this is something that sounds very obvious. I mean, now that I know it, it sounds super obvious. But again, self-criticism. If I was in a real game, I would have been able to understand that queen f3 was for controlling d5. Probably, as I told you, I would have played it, but really understanding that, maybe yes, it's not that insane if you think about it, but I don't know. I like to think that this move teaches me something. All right, bishop a6, again, controlling this square, maybe also taking an eye on this pawn, we don't know, and knight to g4. Of course, you want to play this knight to g4, because this knight already fights for d5, is already active. This knight on h2 is not active, so is this knight. Is also something that you may think is obvious, but you know, again, in a real game, you may be so focused on this part of the board that if you're in a real game against a player, you are just like, oh, which knight I move? Of course you move the h knight, because this knight has already a purpose. So it's something that now sounds obvious, but when you're playing, you know what I mean, nothing is obvious. All right, knight to g4, knight takes g4, and now I ask you guys, think about it, just stop the video or do whatever, with what you take back. Sounds obvious, like the knight probably. No, the pawn. Now, why is this obvious to Fischer and to me, when I saw it for the first time, wasn't that obvious? Because, again, the d5 square. I mean, right now we are analyzing this and it's super obvious to us, but in a real game, it's not at all. Like Fischer, this knight is perfect. He doesn't want to move it. Instead, if you take with the pawn, Bobby Fischer says a very important thing. What's the goal of chess? Checkmating the king. So what says Bobby Fischer? Now there is an H file open. And now black is written here in the book. Black, says Fischer, have to concern about the H column. He has to deal with it. What is the best defender for an H7 pawn? What do you think it is? A knight. That can be go there or there, but look at this. The knight is so far away. This is amazing. Like Fischer just look at where the pieces are and try to find the best thing to spot everything. It's just amazing. All right, Queen C6. Again, you see this square is very important, and G5. I mean, all right, this move is a little bit, let's say, out of my league. Let's say like that. Fischer explains that, well, why he played this, first of all. He played this because he wants to free the square for the knight to go on G4. So after knight C4, that from Fischer perspective is a very typical move of Black, he have the option of go there and he is not forced to change the knight. So he considered this knight inferior to this one. And this is pretty active because it can play a very important role into attacking the black king. This knight instead is just a defensive piece, so you don't want to really, capture them. Alright, knight c4, and you may ask, why don't capture here? There is a very long line after this, is a sacrifice. He will probably play on the king side, try to spot some weaknesses, but I'm not going into it because for two reasons. It's a little bit boring and I don't understand it actually, so yeah. Knight c4 is the move here. I just want to concentrate on the gaming itself and try to learn a couple of things. I consider it a victory actually. I literally consider it a victory. Alright, and now there is of course knight to g4. And now things are okay for white, because look at this. White is threatening this move, check, and after capture, I mean, you are getting mated, because queen here, yes, I know there's the bishop, but I'm just saying. Alright, so black has to takes. By the way, now the pawn is defended, so black has to takes, queen takes, and Fischer said white is okay, he has the bishop pair, and he is happy. So another very important thing, as a beginner, allow me to call myself a beginner, please, thank you. As a beginner, I don't really understand that much that thing of the bishop pair. I don't know about you, I would love to listen to you in the comment if you really understand that concept of the bishop pair. And theoretically, I understand it, like open lines, open center, no pawns means more activity for the bishop. And if you compare a bishop to a knight, of course the bishop play better with open lines, of course. But when it comes to my game, to my very personal game, I don't know about you, but my very personal games, I don't really know what to do. But okay, I'm looking at this game, maybe I'm learning something. Let's see what they does. Alright, knight c4 back. Why knight c4? Because you want to play knight to d7 to f8 to defend this pawn. You remember when Fischer captured here and he says about this h7 problem? Look at this, look at how those very strong players play this part of the game. g3, plan is very simple. King g2. Rook h1, attacking the h-pawn. Very, very simple. In our games, in my games, usually I come up with an idea, with a plan, and then I'm not coherent with myself. I just play other things. I get distracted. Those players, well, usually my plan is the wrong plan, of course, but you know what I mean. Like, it probably had happened to you. Like, you just try to play moves that are not coherent, and usually that leads to very bad things. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about, unfortunately. Alright, c4, because black just calculated that he's in time to play this, so he allowed himself to gain a little bit more space, try to lock the queen side, because if there's gonna be some actions over there, black is maybe concerned that white can even strike on the queen side. King g2, as you can see, just very simple. You want to play rook h1 and mate your opponent. Knight d7, of course you have to be in time. Rook h1, knight f8. Another very, very important lesson that I have from this game. Like, you are there and you calculate as a beginner, as an intermediate, that you're gonna play rook h1 and he's going to play knight f8. So you say, why I should go for it? He's going to be able to defend. But you have to understand that now you have a very active rook on h1 and opponent has a very passive knight on f8, completely defending. You want to strategically force opponent pieces into the defense. I mean, this position is very good for Fischer. All right, b4. And now Fischer just says, okay, on the king side, everything is as it is. Let's just try to face the queen side a little bit. You can take en passant, but Fischer said that after bishop takes, queen takes. I mean, if you want to be greedy, of course, as you can see the bar here, go crazy. And bishop e3, Fischer wrote white is okay. Compare those two guys. Who is better? Pretty obvious. Compare those two guys. Who is better? Pretty obvious. White pieces are better here. So he says nothing really good comes from this en passant. Fischer words, not my fault. I'm not against en passant, you know. All right. So queen e6. And again, as a beginner, against we are looking from Fischer point of view. Imagine yourself being against a grandmaster. You would immediately trade, of course, because you want to, release pressure. But it's not what Fischer do. Fischer instead go queen e2, because of course you are attacking. You don't want to change pieces. You don't want to release pressure on your opponent. You want to keep it. It's very easy for me to say right now, but I know that in my games, again, self-criticism is very important when you study those big games. In a game, I would probably have changed it. All right, queen e2 is the best move. You keep the pressure and look at this queen. Looking at the king side, looking at the queen side, maybe a4, and all those pawns. I mean, they are just falling down. a5. Fischer takes. Queen a6. I mean, black is just trying probably to, solve situation on the queen side, so he has only to deal with the king side. Bishop e3. Look at this. This is the 28th move. Insane. And the first move with this bishop. Bishop e3. Connecting rooks and just activating a little bit the bishop. I mean, he's just threatening this move if black does nothing. So black, of course, takes. And a4. Very important move. Just threatening to capture here. Coming with the rook. Pressuring this pawn. And completely obliterate the queen side. Obliterate. What a nice word. Alright, so rook e8. Takes. I mean, I'm not gonna go analyzing this. It's just you are left with a queen and those pieces are just horrible. All right, queen takes b5, and again taking the rook. Before doing that, Fischer takes control over the b file. How does he manage to do that? The queen must go away and rook to b6. I mean, this rook can't never be captured because always you have to look first at the queen. Queen go away. And now, rook to a6. And now Fischer has the control of the a file. Amazing. Rook takes. I mean, you can't really, as black, you can't survive in this position. You have to trade, absolutely. The pressure is too strong. And now look at those. I mean, I want you to compare pieces. Like, compare those pieces. All right, we have white bishop here and black bishop. He's doing a nice job defending, and since the queen side is open, yeah, he has a lot of space to go, but really, where is he going? Nowhere. Look at this knight and this bishop. Yes, the bishop is a little bit locked up here, but this diagonal may become very important. And the rook, very active, all over the place, and this rook is literally doing nothing. So Fischer opponent tries to play this because you want to have an extra defender towards this pawn, and queen to g4. Now the threat is pretty big, I will say, and the threat is like you are pressuring this rook, so you want to attack the queen, maybe even capturing the bishop, deflecting the queen, and just taking the rook and winning the game. That's just the idea that I have. Maybe Fischer thought something else, but this is what I have in mind. Alright, knight e6. Fischer wrote about this move. He actually wrote, I have the book here, bringing the knight back into the game. So, I mean, quote of Fischer. Alright, knight e6, bishop a4. Yeah, I want to stop a little bit because this is just amazing. Like, if you see this position, imagine playing white here against an opponent. Imagine be on chess.com, on Lee Chess, or even over the board. This is the move 36 On the move 40, black resigns. I mean, do I need to add something? I don't think so. All right, bishop a4, because you want to play rook c6 maybe. Rook b8, trying to activate the rook a little bit. Rook c6, attacking the queen, and the pawn on c4. Queen d8, as you can see, is a little bit of a mistake. And now there is the final blow. Feel free to pause the video here if you want to solve this little puzzle. And now I'm showing you the solution. The solution is rook takes e6. I mean, let's be honest. It's pretty easy to spot rook takes c6. I mean, there are no other sacrifice, and you know when I ask you to find a solution is a sacrifice, of course. And this is rook takes e6. What is hard to understand is why. Well, in the game, queen c8 was played, with the idea, very smart, that if you move this rook, the queen is lost. And after that, Fischer won in one move, another problem. But like, what if pawn capture? Well, very easily, you take here, and Fischer says, after you move, whatever, queen takes c5, and even though you're down an exchange, this rook, compared to the power of those bishop, and most importantly, the weakness of this king, black is just busted. So you can't really take. And after queen c8, I want you to pause again. This is even nicer, and find the best way for white to win, and it's just one move resignation. Is insane. All right, I'll show you. Look at this. Bishop d7. I mean, this is something crazy and insane. Crazy. I mean, let's put together words. Who cares? If you take the bishop, I mean, look at this. The rook is under attack. The bishop is under attack. That can be taken, but nothing can be. Of course, if you take the rook, I'm taking your queen and I win. But what if you take my bishop? Check. And now it's different, because the queen is not there, he's there. So after you take back, I don't really care how, I don't know. You just take back and you win the queen. And this is completely winning, of course. So that was very, very nice. I mean, this bishop d7 is really pretty to end the game. And look at this position, it's quite fascinating to me. All right, so I want to just say a couple of things. The first one, I think that very important, you see over here, don't capture pieces randomly, but only if you find a purpose. In this case, it was to obtain control over the d5 square more, even with the queen. Second trade, I mean, from black point of view in this occasion, white is threatening to win a piece, so it's okay to change, because you are forced to do something. And again, is white move right now? What do you capture with? What do you do? The knight, the queen you can't because there is the bishop. The knight, no, the pawn. Because the knight here is already perfectly placed. You control d5, and now you have another line of attack in the H column. So again, this capture is not casual. Queen here, pawn there. Again, this is a sacrifice, so if you capture, would have been to win a pawn, so that would have make sense. My English is just completely gone, but okay. Knight c4, knight g4, and now black takes. Again, it's not random. Like, you're threatening this, and remember, it can become very dangerous. I mean, I know this move is not possible, but it's just to make you understand what I mean here. All right, bishop takes. Logical. Queen takes, of course you want to take back the piece, so far all the trades are being logical, you know, nothing just random. Knight back, g3, c4, king g2, you know, the game keeps going. Again, taking en passant, you have to calculate, wasn't that good, so he didn't. And again, if you take there, it's just helping black. You are releasing the pressure so much, you are not longer attacking, and it's just an equal position. So queen back, a5, taking here, Fischer consider it useful, you're just winning a pawn, and you know, now those pawns are a little bit weaker. Queen here, bishop active, and a4. And you can take here, I didn't mention that, but then you take here, and Fischer evaluated this as better for him. I'm not gonna go into the variations, we believe Fischer, and I mean, we are learning something, so far so good, I don't want to get crazy right now. So here again, taking is good because now this pawn is weak. You are opening all those lines for your rooks, so it makes sense. It actually makes sense. Takes, go there, not capturing because it doesn't make sense, but first controlling, and now you're threatening a rook. The pressure is too much, so you capture back. Of course, you want to capture back, and so far all the trades are just made with logical purpose. You go ahead a little bit, and again, trade made with logical purpose. I haven't counted how many trades were made, but not that much if you think really closely. So this is really fascinating to me, how trades are made only if players really believe in them. So I think that's the biggest thing that we can take out of this game. Trade only if you find a purpose. How do you find a purpose in your trading? Again, maybe trading a piece is going to release the pressure from your opponent, and you don't want that. You want to keep the pressure. Maybe taking in the center really doesn't advantage you in any ways, or maybe it does, so you have to do it. I mean, with the experience and studying those kind of games, I think you really learned a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and most importantly, as always, enjoy your chess.